The hearing will come to order, please. This is the Senate Committee on Appropriations. Senator Emerson to come to the hearing room. I know you're working on it. You need to tell us. Oh, sure. Mr. Delatorre. Members, if you look over the file today, we have two regular orders of business, and Mr. Delatorre is going to present AB 1955. Mr. Hagman has AB 2000. That was heard August 2nd. That is a vote only. We will not be taking testimony on that. And then the three last items are being heard pursuant to Senate Rule 29.10, meaning that they are not eligible for amendments, and so we'll take the testimony in light of that. So, Mr. Delatorre, why don't you begin with AB 1955? This is local government compensation, and I would like a do-pass motion on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator and members. Clearly related to what we have learned about the craziness in the city of Bell, we need to take further steps to ensure that it is not repeated. For those of you that don't know, the city council there, part-time city council, was paying itself almost $100,000 a year for part-time city council in a city where the median income is less than $40,000 a year. The city council was paying itself $98,000 a year. That's a problem, clearly. AB 1955 was crafted with input from the Assembly and Senate local government committees to make sure that we had a targeted incentive for cities to do the right thing. And that incentive is three parts. If a city is deemed to be an excess compensation city, which is based on population and a limitation on how much they can get paid for stipends, if they go above those marks, then the controller will analyze that data and the attorney general will affirm it. Then that city council, the 5 council members, will have to pay 50% tax on the overage. So if, according to the formula, they were due to earn $20,000 and they paid themselves $40,000, the overage would be $20,000, and they'd pay a 50% tax on the $20,000 or $10,000. Again, a disincentive to do the wrong thing. Number 2, the redevelopment, any new redevelopment projects or any new bonding would be put on hold as long as they were an excess compensation city. Why those two? Because redevelopment is subsidized by the state to the tune of $1.3 billion, and those decisions obviously impact everything else in the state budget. The bonding authority, same thing. These are tax-free municipal bonds that go out to market. And again, there's a significant nexus with the state on that as well. So that is what the legislation does. I also want to point out that the city councils in these settings can avoid these incentives and disincentives quite simply, which is to either by ordinance or by a vote of the people raise their salaries. If they do that, this legislation doesn't apply to them. So go to the vote of the people, do an ordinance, do it the right way, and you have nothing to worry about. That's what the legislation does. With me is the LA District Attorney's Office, the sponsor of the measure.
Thank you very much. We'll go to your witnesses.
Madam Chair, Dan Filizzato on behalf of the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. As the existing rules are in place, we found in the cities of Bell and unfortunately other cities in Los Angeles County where excess compensation is being paid to the city's elected officials. Unfortunately, the cities that have the biggest problems also tend to be the cities with some of the lowest income residents and also some of the highest property tax bases in the county. We believe that measures like AB 1955 and the other related measures introduced by other assembly members and senators will help restore confidence in elected officials by unfortunately having to force some to do the right thing. Right now, the lack of confidence in public officials is troublesome, to say the least, and unfortunately our Public Integrity Division, which has to investigate these cases, is more busy than they should be. We believe that these measures, if enacted, will help reduce the type of public corruption that we are currently investigating and will, like I say, restore faith in our elected officials.
Thank you. Other testimony in favor? Other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? We're going to need a chair. Thank you.
Keep it short.
Dave Walrath, representing Small School Districts Association, a member of the Education Management Group.
Excuse me. Let me just say there's a number of opposition testimony. We want to have a thorough discussion, but I'll take 3. Please do not repeat. After that, you will please just identify yourselves and your position on the bill, okay?
Dave Walrath, representing Small School Districts Association, a member of the Education Management Group, which has sent a letter on the bill. Our specific concern is the potential for negotiating in public on contracts. We believe the negotiating process that is in current law is appropriate. We also concur that once that contract is ratified, all of it should be posted on the internet or other distribution process as soon as it is ratified, but not before ratification. We also believe that that should be the case for all employment contracts that are negotiated and ratified in order to have the broadest amount of transparency. If the bill were amended to delete the negotiating in public and just simply have, upon ratification, full disclosure, transparency of all employment contracts, we would withdraw our opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
To be clear, there is another small segment of the bill, which is what he's referring to. We're still talking about the same bill. It's just another small segment of the legislation that requires public disclosure of contracts before ratification.
Thank you. Next.
Madam Chair, members, Dan Carrick on behalf of the League of California Cities. Earlier, we had sent a notice of concerns on this bill. This morning, we've converted that to a notice of opposition unless amended. We actually, the previous witness was concerned about the Brown Act provisions. We're actually supportive of those provisions. The provisions that we have a concern with are the provisions that affect charter cities. We believe the mechanism that's outlined in the bill, I think it's in sections 1, 4, and 5, the process is unconstitutional from a variety of fronts, and so we've got fundamental problems there. Getting at the question of city council compensation, we understand the author's concerns with that. As a league, we've been concerned as well. We've argued the best approach to get at that is through the salary transparency disclosure process. There's a couple of bills pending in this legislature right now, SB 501 by Correa and AB 2064 by Huber. Those bills collectively will get you that transparency, and in those communities where there's a problem, it'll be addressed. We think this measure is we know it's well intended, but it's too heavy-handed, and we think it's unconstitutional. For those reasons, we have an opposition position. Thank you.
Next, please.
Madam Chair and members, Brian Rivas on behalf of the California School Boards Association. We recognize what Mr. Delatorre is trying to address here, and we would prefer the approaches and some of the other bills that are seen as part of this package that move in the direction of disclosure and transparency along the lines of AB 2064 and SB 501, two bills that my association will be supporting. We're concerned, as was mentioned previously, about the effect on school boards being swept into this in the 11th hour and the closing hours of session, and the effect on the ability to recruit and retain top talent specifically for the position of superintendent, regarding the provision that says that you have to...
That might be what he's trying to get at. Go ahead.
Well, if I can just elaborate. This doesn't talk about disclosing offers after the fact. This talks about putting on the web what you may have offered to try and recruit someone in a national market. And sometimes people don't want the fact that they're seeking out or in negotiations disclosed to their current employer because it's sensitive and it's a tentative offer. That may have an effect on the ability to recruit the person who may be the best fit for a particular community, or it may influence the candidate and say, well, I'm going to have to live with the risk now because it's a tentative offer, and I'm going to ask for something higher along the lines of compensation. So bottom line, we think a better approach is greater disclosure and transparency rather than forcing school boards to put tentative offers on the web.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair, members, David Jones on behalf of the California Redevelopment Association. We are here opposing unless amended. We think that the sanction against redevelopment is incorrect. It should punish the criminal, not the community. Undoubtedly, we think that some agencies are not going to be able to swiftly move and adopt ordinances in order to escape that sanction. We do believe there'll be fiscal implications for the state, loss of